Hello, plant fam. Here's a short little video I decided to film while I was up potting and repotting a couple of my little plants. We're going to start out with this Anthurium. This is a Clarinervium hybrid of some kind. And she's been in this little plastic cup since I got her, which was months and months ago. What's interesting about this cup is there's no drainage hole. So she's just been confined in this space very, very happily, but we're getting to the point that she needs some room to grow. So we're going to upsize her today. You can see I'm having some trouble getting her out of that container because her roots are so overgrown in there. And I decide eventually, after trying to shimmy her out, that my best course of action is going to be to just snap that plastic cup and get her out that way. Really healthy roots. I would never recommend to keep a plant in any sort of container without a drainage hole, because typically that's going to lead to root rot and other problems with your plants. But like I said, in this case, this is how she came to me, and we had no issues over those months. I'm going to assess her roots and make sure everybody looks good, that there isn't any sign of rot that I need to remove. And she looks great. So I'm happy to see that. Otherwise, I'm not going to bother the roots. I'm not going to try to separate them. I know there are mixed opinions about how to handle roots when you're upsizing, but in my experience, the best thing to do most of the time, there could be exceptions, but typically there is no need to try and loosen the root ball. That typically does more harm than good. It can cause some shock to the plant. So the best thing to do, leave it intact and then just place it into the new container. I got a couple of my smaller nursery pots here. I'm running a little bit low on my options, so we're just seeing what our best bet would be. Whenever you're upsizing a pot or a plant, the best rule of thumb is to just go one size up, which is usually a 2-inch increase in diameter. In this case, because of the strange size that she was in initially, this isn't quite that. It will be wider, but that cup she was in was pretty tall. So you'll see I have some concerns because I can't put very much substrate in the base of that new container. She doesn't have a lot of room top to bottom, but we're going to try to make it work. This mixture that she's in right now is my chunky soil-less mixture. So it's going to be bark and perlite and charcoal and a couple other things that are very airy. So it's a very loose, chunky mixture, which is what I use for a lot of my aeroids. But with her, you'll see me reconsider a little bit in a minute, because the original substrate she was in, that soil there on the mat, was not chunky, not very loose. It was a very sandy soil with some perlite, and she's used to staying pretty wet, being in that cup with no drainage. So I'm going to add that back in, and then I'm going to switch here in a minute to my chunky soil mixture, which is similar, but has a little bit more in there to help retain water and moisture. And we're just backfilling into there. Tap that into place so that everything can shimmy down where it needs to be. And I'm a little concerned at this point because she's not as low in that container as I would like her to be for the sake of stability. But again, I had limited options, so it was the best choice at this point. She looks good though. We're going to clean that up and start to switch over to the second plant today, which is one of my Alocasia babies. I had 3 corms in here. This is in pon. Pon is a semi-hydro. Obviously, her roots are doing great. They grew down into the water, which is very common in semi-hydro, and a sign that it's time to upsize. Now at this point, I realized I don't have the size nursery cup that I need for the Alocasia, and the one that I put the Anthurium in would have been the perfect size. So instead, I went and found a different cup for the Anthurium, put some holes in the bottom of that, and just switched her out here same way. And the upside to that is this cup is taller than the one I had just put her in. So I think that'll be better overall, even though it's a little bit smaller in diameter. I'm not sure what type of Alocasia this is. I had 3 corms that I put in here. Of course, I don't label it because why would I? And so it's a guessing game. I know in a few months as she matures, it'll be easier to identify. At this point, my best guess is she's a Mitchellitziana, but we'll let you know later. I'm going to go ahead and separate these 3 corms because I don't need all of them. I know she came from one of my other mother plants. So they're looking really good. I'm going to separate them, like I said, so that I can sell some of them and then just keep one for myself. With pon, it's really easy because the rocks just fall right off of the roots. Same thing as with soil. We want to make sure that there's a good amount of substrate in the base of the container before you set the plant in there so the roots have somewhere to go. You can see the mud dripping out the bottom there. When this is shipped to me, it's not pre-rinsed, so it is really dusty and dirty. Because I don't have an area like a yard and a hose where I can spray it off really easily, and I don't want all that mud going down my drains inside, I opt to just put it in this tub with some water. And then what I'll do is individually, when I pot things up, I'll go run water through that and rinse it out before I set it in its nutrient mix. And just like with soil, as we set that in there, we put the plant on top, backfill, and then tap and shimmy those rocks into place so that they can surround the roots nice and snug. I do decide with this other plant to put it into perlite instead, because I'm going to be selling this one, so it's just easier that way. And there we have it. That was a very abrupt ending, but hopefully that was helpful for some of you. If you have any questions, let me know, and thank you for watching.